Undead Unluck is the latest in David Productions' excellent catalog of anime. It's got the fights of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and the romantic chemistry of Cruz and Diaz in Night and Day. The two pieces even share a scene.
What am I wearing?
Bikini.
Wait, what? Why is my bra pushed up like that?
I gave you CPR.
In addition to this, Undead Unluck is one of the most thematically succinct shows I've ever watched. It hammers home its thesis in every aspect. The heroes, the villains, the very world itself, everything revolves around change. More specifically, the fact that change, while scary and challenging, can bring great joy into our lives. This is seen mostly through Fuko Izumo, our titular idealistic main character. She negates the luck of others, and that anyone who touches her gets hit with calamity. The severity of which is tied to her relationship with that person. While someone she just met may only be met with a minor inconvenience, the people she loves, such as her parents, are dealt unluck in lethal doses. Because of this, Fuko's life hasn't changed for quite a while. She's lived as a lonely shut-in with only the company of her favorite manga. And with the release of its final volume, she's decided the solution to her lonely existence is to take her own life. Enter Andy. He's Negator Undead, which means he is immortal and thus can use his body as a weapon. Their meeting is also neatly yin-yang. In her, Andy sees the potential to end his perpetual life, and in him, Fuko sees a chance to end her life as a lonely girl. Soon after the Fuko-Andy dynamic is introduced, we meet Shen and Void, Negators from the Union, which is the organization in charge of policing rogue Negators. Negator fights are much like stand battles, wherein one's physical abilities play just as big a role as their mental ones. Figuring out your opponent's rules and knowing your own is the most likely path to victory. Andy figures out that Void negates his ability to avoid, baiting him with a severed hand and taking him out with one clean blow. Shen's ability, however, remains a mystery, allowing him to get the upper hand on the couple. But before Shen takes them in, Fuko does something rash in an attempt to give Andy that death that he's been after before the two are separated forever.
Look away for 10 minutes!
Huh?
We're about to do some totally X-rated stuff!
What?! Seeing this, Shen, being the grade A goofball he is, releases them. He proceeds to provide them with the location of another Union member, Negator Unchanged, suggesting that they kill her in order to secure a spot for each of them on the round table, the head council in charge of the Union. This member's name is Gina, and Fuko meets her as she's painting on the shore of Lake Bakai. As the two of them settle in to sketch the sunset, Gina asks her an interesting question.
So hey, Lil Lucky.
Huh?
Which do you like more? Stuff that changes or stays the same?
Gina prefers that which stays the same, a trait evidenced in her love of painting. It's sort of an act of defiance, taking the ever-changing world and capturing it in an unchanging image. Fuko disagrees. Though she recognizes the scary aspects of change,
For a while, I couldn't change. But 4 days ago, I met this really odd guy. And it's been crazy ever since! He threw me all over and locked me up on the day we...
she also sees how change has improved her life. Without Andy stepping in, she would have died, and she would never have been able to spend a day painting with someone, or go on this whole adventure she's been on. Though Fuko's painting doesn't seem too special, it's actually a bold statement on her part. You see, the Undead Unluck universe contains only the sun, earth, and moon. No galaxies, no other planets, and definitely no stars. Fuko here saw this, and added some. She saw the lone moon in the sky, felt a singular connection to it, and chose to give it some friends. She saw the world as it was and took steps to change it, which we'll see as a solid through line for her character. For now, she must deal with the world as it is. She must either secure her seat at the round table by killing Gina, or die at her hands. After charging up her unluck through, scandalous means, Fuko chucks Andy's head through a hole in Gina's invincible force field, causing her to get caught up in the unluck aimed at Andy. As Gina lays dying, she confesses that for years, she couldn't change. She was stuck repeating the same cycle working for the Union, and the idea of change never occurred to her, in much the same way she never thought of adding sparkles to the night sky. But she loved Fuko's painting, and as she reflects, she realizes,
Guess I wasn't able to change, but maybe change itself isn't so bad after all.
However, change is not a universal good. Change at times can be rather devastating. Death, betrayal, decay, all of these negative changes. To illuminate its point, Undead Unluck whisks us along the spoil arc. After Fuko and Andy join the Union, they travel to the town of Longing, blue-haired Baki along for the ride. There, Andy marries a zombie, Shen employs the Joestar secret technique,
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
and Fuko finds herself face-to-face with her first Yuma. Yumas are the embodiments of various rules, like clothes, autumn, and in this case, spoil, a manifestation manifestation of the world as it is. As the two stare each other down, Spoil makes the case for his necessity, citing the fact that before his birth, life was stagnant, unchanging. But when he entered the picture,
living beings stopped taking life for granted and started seeking ways to exist for just one day longer.
Spoil is an asterisk next to our theme. Sure, change can be scary and challenging, but without it we can't grow or fully appreciate life, as long as we remember, not all change is positive. Spoil's change is actually quite negative. Food goes bad, buildings become dilapidated, loved ones drift from sanity. We understand this, and so does Fuko. So when asked,
why are you so attached to a body that won't even last a century on its own?
Fuko cites dreams. Dreams both big and small that people leverage their flimsy bodies to achieve. Dreams that change the world, whether it's living an average life, saving a loved one, or killing God. Dreams that achieve positive change. Thus, as Fuko stands up to the world as it is, as she asserts her dream,
I want to become a normal girl and live my life to the fullest till my dying day.
she counters Spoil's reasoning and his ability as the timer counting down to her turning zombie shoots way up, far beyond his reach. Fuko, throughout, fights both the rules of reality and the self-imposed rules of negators. We witnessed this initially with Gina, and now we experience it with Tatiana. Tatiana is negator untouchable, and she struggled with her rule for years. At 5 years old, she inadvertently killed her parents, and much like Fuko, sank into a deep depression.
Just put your gun in my mouth and fire. That'll do the trick, and then I can die.
In another parallel to Fuko, another negator arrived at the perfect time to rescue her, both physically and emotionally. Sometime later, after the fight with Gina, Tatiana challenges Andy to a duel, angered him for both killing Gina and ignoring her infatuation with him. In their fight, Andy ends up indecently exposing himself to Tatiana, causing her to lose control of her ability, an act that threatens to destroy a large part of the compound they're in. But as everyone scrambles to evacuate, as they've seemingly done several times, as the world around her rushes one way, Fuko breaks headlong the other way. Tatiana tries to explain that this is the way of things.
You heard what Mr. Eagle said, right? I've lost control! Hurry up and run!
But Fuko, as usual, refuses, carving out a new path. She explains that she was the one responsible for Miss Gina's death, and she apologizes and promises to honor her legacy. Most importantly, she extends the hand of friendship, and, for the first time, Tatiana's ability deactivates. Tatiana isn't the only teammate Fuko helps change for the better, but to adequately explain how she changes Miss Joyce, head of the round table, I first gotta discuss cinematography. Undead Unluck is masterful in its visual storytelling. For example, when Yuma Galaxy, a rule that introduces stars and planets to the night sky, is added, by God, he's in a book. It's this whole thing. I'm not explaining it. You're just gonna have to watch the show for himself. Point is, right? Stars, planets, everything's added to the night sky, and there's a shot of Lake Bakai with its formerly dark sky now filled with stars. The moon now sitting up there with the companions Fuko thought it should have had. This sets up an excellent contrast between the positives that change can bring with the negatives we see a moment later, being the massive alien fleet that appears intent on conquering the planet. Again, just watch it, okay? In a similar vein, Undead Unluck really loves long shots. A long shot is one where the subjects are far from the camera. This is typically used to illustrate scale or help you appreciate the setting, but in Undead Unluck's case, it illustrates the relations between the key players. Take the shot of Fuko, Andy, and Gina. Fuko's placement directly on top of Andy illustrates that they're close emotionally, whilst the two of them's distance from Gina emphasizes that they stand on opposite sides of her, both literally and thematically. This shot of Fuko facing Shen and the kids from Longing communicates the distrust from the younger party. Most often, the Union's top dog, Miss Joyce, features in these shots. Whether it's her explaining the rules to Fuko or staring down the end of the world calendar, she's always distant from both the viewers and her surroundings, an effect that gives her a certain sense of melancholy. In addition, she's always fighting solo, whereas we witness Andy and Fuko inseparable on the battlefield, Toph and Ishin also working together, Joyce stands alone, and after a betrayal from another roundtable member, the truth is finally revealed. Miss Joyce and the world of Undead Unluck are stuck in a loop. God makes the world, creates rules, and eventually destroys his creation. And though Miss Joyce and some version of the Union stand against him, they always fail. She's relived this over and over again, witnessed the death of her friends over and over again. She's found herself unable to change. In a way, she's a lot like Fuko. And much like Fuko, Andy steps in, signing on to her vision of justice, giving her the resolve she needs to finally make a real change. Step 1 to effect this change is hunting down Ono-un, Negator Unknown, writer of the peak manga From You to Me.
It's the gold standard of long-running sci-fi shoujo manga!
And there's plenty of action too, so even you'd like it, Top!
Many hours later.
Damn! That shit good!
To do this, the team has to first create a manga of their own, and the story Fuko decides to tell is autobiographical. They write Undead Unluck in Undead Unluck. There's no way this is allowed. This has got to be cheating. Also, there's this moment Fuko ends up using brainwave-controlled cybernetic arms to rip off Andy's pants, meaning, because they're controlled by her mind, that there was some part of her that wanted his pants off. Then, before she can beat the allegations, the arms grab his...
Go on.
No, I sense I've made a mistake of some kind.
With this manga, they get the attention of Ana-un and travel to Canada to meet her. Akira Kuno, creator of Ana-un, sits in an interesting place relative to the theme. Where Fuko and the members of the Union are trying to change the world as it is, Akira Kuno is trying to change the future, the world that will be. As a kid, he discovered the artifact G-Liner, which revealed the future, at the same time turning him into Negator Unknown, a lonely spirit wandering the world, unable to affect the dire events he'd witnessed. But through Ana-un, he found a workaround, making him a surrogate to communicate his message. And on this day, in this very battle, is when his work will pay off. First, he helps Andy power up, allowing him to save Fuko's life at the pivotal moment.
Deadline!
And second, to ensure the victory in this fight, he sacrificed himself to age Rip, Negator Unrepair, back up, and I realize I've yet to mention this guy. We first meet Rip on a mission to recover another Negator, Negator Unmove. Fuko and company are here to recruit this guy, Chikara, into the Union, whilst Rip is there to recruit him into Under, the secret organization standing in opposition to the Union. Though he has a change of plans when he learns that Chikara is a scaredy cat. As his ability only activates when he's standing still, and his knees will not stop knocking, he's really not cut out for combat as he currently is. And instead of thinking that he could train this guy or work with him to master this powerful ability, Rip decides that killing him and hoping his ability transfers to someone better is the wiser call. In this way, he stands diametrically opposed to Fuko, seeming almost allergic to change, which makes his defeat all the more ironic. As with Fuko's help, Chikara locks in at the crucial moment, allowing Andy to shoot a finger right through Unrepair's heart. His body is carried off and we don't see him in action till now. As Andy, Fuko, Rip, and a couple others face off against Yuma Autumn, this arachnoid beast that can turn people into books, Ana-un sacrifices himself, using an artifact to age Rip back up to fighting age. And whilst Fuko mourns the death of the person who kept her going through all those years of isolation, the writer kept her alive before she met Andy, Rip becomes combative.
Do you think I'd help you because I'm in your debt? That I'd have a change of heart if you appeal to my emotions?
He sees his sacrifice as a callous ploy to get him to join forces with Andy and Fuko, to become a hero, something that he simply cannot do, as that would mean losing Lila. It's not fully explained who she is, or why Rip thinks switching sides would result in her death, but whether it's the truth or another self-imposed rule, Rip's stuck in his ways. He believes he cannot change. But Fuko's use of the word hero touches something in him. Lila used that same word to describe him once, and for a moment, he reconsiders.
You're like some kind of hero, aren't you?
Now, he is true to his word and doesn't end up all buddy-buddy with the gang, but I suspect we'll see him at the round table sooner rather than later. His fighting style even reflects Andy's, the two naming their attacks rather similarly.
Deep Crimson Waxing Moon! Full Moon Salt!
After they take down Autumn, Andy is left alone in a clearing, and we see what Undead Unluck is all about one last time. As he sits, he holds out his hand and gives Akira Kuno a fist bump. He negates Negator Unknown's ability, saying no to rule the world just like Fuko. Undead Unluck asks us to embrace change and to look beyond the walls we've put ourselves in. Sure, we could cloister ourselves away from the world, fall into deep depression, choose to face life alone, or we could choose to live, to look beyond what we believe is possible, to reach out and make that friend, to go beyond the rules of our lives. In short, we could choose to change.